Live, actually not about to. We are live. A little later than normal, and there's a reason, but no excuses required. But hopefully you got the message. Starting at 3:30 today, because this is an important conversation. We are going to talk about kindness. And so kindness in terms of how critically important it is to our day-to-day resilience and helping other people not have to be resilient by not like ruining their day by being a jerk. And also, what can you do to proactively choose kindness, especially on the days when maybe you don't feel like it? Because it happens. So let's dive into kindness. Now, of course, as always, if you are in the chat, please put your name in there. And Amanda, so glad you were here. Well, I'm glad you're here too. I was thinking Amanda's going to think I'm late, and so that's why I put up that post. So hopefully you got it. Yeah, I was just lost in a client's project, which was phenomenal. So I'm super excited for my client, and it was like, oh, right. That's why you don't put the do not disturb on for the entire day. Don't have the thing. So thank you for your kindness and patience with me. So let's talk about this. I mean, the world, it just needs a lot more kindness. I mean, we know that you just turn on the news, and I think if people were approaching it a little better than, certain situations, that would have a ripple effect of positivity across the world. But we can't influence the whole world. So what can we do in our own perspective of the world, our bubbles, to be kinder? And what inspired this as a topic choice for me was I was out walking my dog, as I often am, every day, once a day at least. And I had my AirPods on. So I couldn't hear what was happening before it happened. But I can read body language, and let me tell you about this body language. It was not of this person who was coming towards me. It was definitely not the kindness welcome wagon, shall we say. So what happened, but I read the body language, and I put on a huge smile. I didn't know what she was coming at me for. I didn't know anything. I was just like, I am going to pop into this conversation with really, really, really great energy, because I think I'm dealing with some negative energy. And so she came running out, and I was like, hi. And then I like pulling off my AirPods, and she was, so that diffused the situation a little bit, because I think she was like hot and in a mood. She goes, is your dog peeing on my plants? And so there's this greenery area, not like plants that you plant, like they're just, what is it, perennials or annuals, or, I forget, whichever one comes up every year. Perennials, thank you, from the peanut gallery in the background. And so it's not like she's touching the plants. And I've seen dogs walk by this spot every day, right? And every day dogs all stop there, and that's their little spot. And I was like, well, he's just sniffing. He hasn't peed yet. And so I'm being funny and kind and trying, because I can tell this is upset her, and now I know what it is. And she goes, all these dogs pee on my plant. And I'm like, well, you know what? What if, I don't know if it hurt the plants, but maybe you could spray a little vinegar and neutralize the scent, all for sure to be, sure that my dog walks right on by and doesn't actually pee on your plants. And I killed her with kindness, and not phony over the top kindness, but like genuinely, I am not emotionally going to react and have a fight with you about where my dog is peeing on a public sidewalk. So it actually diffused the situation. And I thought back to the days when I was perhaps younger and not quite as emotionally aware. And if I would have also been in a mood, that would have been a really heavy clash, if that makes sense. It could have been like, dogs pee wherever the dogs pee, and, blah, blah, blah. But I wasn't going to allow that to happen. And so I just thought, you know what, let's talk about kindness, because here's the alternative. If she would have had this commitment to kindness and put on her kindness hat before running out and storming me on the sidewalk, I wouldn't have had to have worked so hard to shift the juju of the situation. And so even if somebody is being cruel or mean or whatever, we can choose to show up from a place of kindness and flip the situation. Not in a manipulative way, not in a way that is that phony kindness, you know, the kind I'm talking about, where somebody's like, oh yeah, you know, and you can just tell, and you're like, you know what, I just want to throttle you. That's when the kindness like kind of goes out the window, because it just is more irritating, right? And condescending. Doesn't work. But what can we do to inspire kindness and have a ripple effect? Because when we're not kind, the ripple effect also is significant. It is a day that you can legitimately ruin somebody else's day. Now, in my emotional wellness work and my perspective and everything, I would actually say technically you can't ruin anybody else's day. However, most people are so busy in their lives, and they're so teetering on the cusp of burnout, and they're so stressed, and they are just, you know, don't have the capacity to choose kindness when they're emotionally intensified. And so we, being people who are committed to this, can actually choose to be kindness so that we're bringing half the equation. It's really hard for somebody to be a jerk when they're met with somebody who is not playing the game, is just not responding. And so that's where our control is, and how we show up and how we respond. So a few things that I've done over the years to try to cultivate kindness. Now, here's something I'm going to say. I am not perfect. Goodness knows. Like, somebody called me the other day and she's like, okay, I got to ask you a bunch of questions. And I'm like, okay, I don't have time for this. I think I may have actually said that. And I was like, can I call you back? And she's like, no, because it's a person who is in outcoming only. And I'm like, oh, fine. Okay, I'm on the other line. And I noticed like I was being really abrupt. Now, I have no idea. I was just, I guess, in a mood and didn't really want to take a call. And I found it irritating, but I knew I had to do it. It was one of those things. But Allie remembered her own work and thought, this is only a task. This does not require emotion. This does not require any drama around it. And so when she called me back, because I had to go over to the other line, and eventually she called me back, I chose the kindness route because I recognized I hadn't been 100% kind. I wasn't rude, but I just wasn't my normal self. And so I said, look, you know what? You caught me at a time when I was just in the middle of something else. I knew this was going to take a little while. I didn't have the time at that time. Thank you so much for calling me back. And so the first thing I want to say is that when we are not totally in our kindness, when we're showing up and we know in the back of our mind, this doesn't feel like I'm inspiring the world to have a smile on their face, we can shift gears. In fact, it's the second principle in the Take Back Your Weekends. Actually, is it the second or the third? Anyway, it doesn't matter which principle it is. It's one of the solution activation principles that our second response is the most important, and let's get there ASAP. Because sometimes our biological response, like you're tired and irritable or hungry and angry or hangry, or as I like to say, pangry, because you're in a high level of pain and that induces anger and irritability, if that's going to happen. But can we recognize it and switch it right away? That's really important. The second piece of thinking in terms of how do we be kinder is to assume that everyone you interact with has something going on behind the scenes and requires your compassion. So often, especially when we're dealing with nameless, faceless people on the internet, or I guess they're not nameless or faceless. They're in there, but they're hidden behind the internet through a computer, or at a call center, for example. it's really easy to forget that that person on the other end may be going through deep loss. They may be going through trauma. They may be on the verge of quitting their job because they can't take one more angry customer. You know, we actually a couple of weeks ago, I wrote a post about a cashier. I forgot about that. That I'm still getting comments and likes on. So thank you for all of you who are doing that. And I was basically saying it's not okay to be cruel to the unsuspecting innocent person who is not responsible for your inability to process your emotions. Yeah. Okay, here's a comment from Lori. Hi, Lori. Nice to have you here. What are our motives? As you said, people can tell if our kindness is genuine. Yes, because like when it's fake, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so if it's not your genuine personality, I'm going to encourage you to be thinking from the perspective of what is happening in that person's shoes that I don't even know what's happening. Can I just come from a place of assuming that their dog just died? Right? Now, hopefully their dog didn't die. I love you, my honey. Where are you? Okay. He's good. He's good. But if we assume as we talk to people that that level of something is going on behind the scenes, if you knew, okay, here's my thinking on this. If you were talking to someone and you knew that they just found out that they have cancer, or they just found out that their, significant other is going to leave them and they didn't know that, would you be a jerk? Would you be kinder to that person? Of course you would, I would think, right? If you know. But for most people we interact with, we actually never know what's really going on behind the scenes. And that's why I'm saying have the assumption that every person needs your compassion. And that, sometimes think about how you need compassion. They probably need it too. Next thing, another way to be kind, to inspire kindness, is to get in the habit of noticing someone doing something right. It's so easy to criticize. It's so easy to judge, to pile on and go like, God, you really suck at this. Maybe you don't say that to people. You might say it to yourself because, kindness starts right here in this mind going around. But assume that people are already having enough pointed out to them that they're doing wrong. And so can you do something right? Now, you could choose to not do anything. You could just walk by your day and not offer kindness anywhere. I love to, sparkle little bits of kindness and inspire smiles in the littlest ways whenever I can. And I also don't have, thank goodness, I have a lot of capacity right now to be kind to people. I have, I practice everything I preach, so I try not to get blown out or stressed out about, things in life, the tasks and whatnot. And I try to solve obstacles really quickly. And I, of course, sit with my emotions for the true adversities. So spreading kindness to me is like the favorite thing to do. And so I noticed, like in the grocery store the other day, there was a toddler who was adorable, and we had tons of fun because she decided she was a boxer and she kept going. And I'm like, anyway, it was really fun. But then I noticed that the 8-year-old kid who doesn't probably get any, whatever, right? He was like, oh yeah, they're talking to my little sister again, So as we were going through, he moved my cart a little bit. And I said, well, my goodness, isn't that fantastically thoughtful of you to do that? And, thanks so much for helping me. And he just beamed like, yeah, and it's such a simple thing. And by the way, does the kid care? Probably not. But in that moment, that was just a little way that I could spread some kindness. And it's not like, oh, look at me, Allie spreads kindness whenever she can. It's, you can choose to do this too. And the thing is, it's almost like a selfish proposition, right? Like the kinder you are to other people, the kinder people are to you, but also the better you feel. Like it's worth it because it's good. Like, I felt good. I was like, yeah, that's right. That kid got noticed, even though he's got the cute little, toddler in his family who's probably taking a lot of the attention in his life, right? So it's not even about the ripple effect outward, although that's fantastic. I'm hoping you're going to adopt a focus of kindness and sprinkling it everywhere to serve you on your inside. Because it's hard to be kind to someone and sprinkle that kindness and be in a bad mood, right? If we want to shift our mood, doing something for someone else, really a great thing to do. So notice when somebody's doing something right. And what I've noticed about this is that if you're in a pattern with a relationship, because relationships all have patterns and they get into this soundtrack of this is how we interact. And if you're in a soundtrack with someone, maybe somebody who you live with or somebody who is a friend, whatever the case may be, or that cashier who's grumpy, whatever. If you try to change the table or turn the tables and you start being kind or noticing something is right, because that other person isn't aware yet that you're working on shifting the soundtrack, they're going to stay in their soundtrack rut. They're going to play the same game until their brain starts to go, oh, wait a second, we're doing something different here. Could I respond differently? And I think sometimes when we try to introduce kindness into relationships that don't already have it, is the other person is waiting for the catch. They're waiting for the shoe to drop to know, okay, that's nice that you noticed that, but what's the but? You did that right, but you still suck at this. What's that's coming? And so I'm going to challenge you to have patience with the effort you're making to be kind, especially within your core relationships. And, I've just, I can see it with friends and relationships that are not doing really great right now. There's just this battle back and forth, and somebody will say, well, I try to be kind. I try to say you're doing something right, and he just snaps back at me. Well, yeah, because you guys have had 5 years of snapping back at each other. And so you got to stay the course of kindness so that it can ooze over there and help change the soundtrack. Something to consider. All right, what else have I got here on my handy dandy little list? Stop criticism, gossip, or other negative soundtracks mid-sentence, mid-commentary. And how do you do this? It's like being, how incredibly passionate I am about self-awareness, right? It's like we want to be so self-aware when we know that we're like not acting in our awesomeness. When we're on that grumpy, irritable part of our human life perspective time. And the sooner and the better you can become aware of it, the sooner you can interrupt the pattern. And so it starts by making a commitment to kindness and maybe choose a time, situational awareness. Let's choose a time when you want to be especially kind that maybe you aren't. So one place I have really had to work hard is with call centers, because I don't have a lot of patience for people who aren't empowered to make decisions and fix things. And I don't want to go through all the rigmarole and everything. So I have proactively made a decision to be kinder when I'm talking and interacting with people in a call center. And so I did that a long time, and I continue to work. I'm a work in progress, all my faults and everything I do. But definitely have noticed a huge improvement, as was evidenced this morning while I was talking with Adobe. Okay. Anyway, so there is a situational awareness, self-awareness, figure out what's the sensation in my body that is happening when I'm not in my sprinkling kindness, spreader of smiles element. And then what are some ways you can deal with it? So one thing to do is, change your state, right? So as you're talking with somebody, so let's use the call center thing. As we're talking with somebody, get up, do some jumping jacks while you're waiting for the next response, right? Just something to shift your energy can be really, really important. Another one that I use whenever people, are like, oh, I don't want to cry, or, whatever, like if I'm on TV talking about this, I don't want to cry. And I'm like, all you got to do is squeeze your butt cheeks. Because you can't cry when you're squeezing your butt cheeks, shockingly enough. And maybe you can, but for me, it's enough of a physical shift to know that, that wait a second, I'm trying to change. I want to change my where this track is at. You can even go as far as to, as you're saying something that isn't 100% kind, you don't have to finish the sentence. You can literally change it mid-sentence. Think about that, right? Like, it's so good. So, gosh, that guy is such and you know what? There, you don't even have to finish the sentence. You don't even have to change that. You don't have to do anything, but you can choose not to finish the fill in the blank. That's what we can do to show up and be kinder in the world. Another way that's really helpful is being present when you're interacting with someone. Remember one of my first clients back in the day when I started my speaking and coaching practice, which was, oh my gosh, 15 years ago now, 2006, whatever that is. And he decided to have his kids, he would quiz them on what was that person's eye color. So if they were like at a fast food joint or any sort of a shop or talking with anybody, introduce them to a friend, he'd walk away and say, what was their eye color? Teaching his kids to look people in the eye. And not only that, but being so present in the moment. Like often we're on our phones and we're looking down instead of looking up. I'm going to challenge you. Put down the phone and literally stop and look at somebody while you're talking with them. And that sense of presence is so incredibly, just comforting. I remember one of my mentors when I first started networking, his name is Angus McKenzie. And when I met him, he was quite a bit older. He would have been in his 70s. And he was known for bringing people into the fold. He would put his arm around you figuratively and literally. And he would, introduce you to a whole bunch of people and help you soar. I mean, his thinking was always, I'll bring you to the table. It's up to you what you do with it. When he died, a bunch of us got together as Angus recruits. We called ourselves, and some of you watching may actually be an Angus recruit as well. And we were like, what was it that made Angus so special? And the thing is, you could be in a room full of 1,000 people, but when he was talking with you, it was only you. He was so focused. He made you feel like you were in this bubble with him. And I've often taught that 30 seconds of fully engaged dialogue and conversation and presence and connection is more effective than 3 minutes of half-hearted networking. Oh, let me see who else is more important coming around. And just softening and coming into it. That's one of the kindest things you can do. Another way to inspire your desire for kindness is to give the benefit of the doubt of good intentions. Now, I understand there are a lot of people out in the world who don't have good intentions. And you know what? That's their issue. That's their negative intention. I'm going to assume they do. Not because I'm going to be naive, not because I'm going to allow them to cross me or whatever, but because my interaction is going to come at something from a positive perspective and from this lens of kindness. Because if we come at something from a lens of anger or assuming the worst, then from a resilience perspective, we actually have to work harder to be unfazed by the daily stressors of life, because we're already automatically interpreting things that we don't even know if they're problems yet as problems. So when the intent is revealed to be negative, then you take appropriate discourse. Like you do the right actions at that point. And you're smart about it. But if we make an assumption that people are showing up the best they can with the tools that they have, and that we're all part of this human experience and are fallible and just like we all have our faults and we're vulnerable. If we show up from that perception and that assumption, the energy at which we'll be met is so much kinder. And when it's not, like the story of me on the sidewalk with the lady who was upset about her plants, you can shift it. You can diffuse the situation. Now, interestingly, by the way, about that, her energy must have been really intense because we walked last night. And for the first time in however long, that Winston's been coming to this place, he walked right by that little section. So he didn't even touch it. So the negative energy is really good if your dog needs to pick up on something. But other than that, as humans, we need a little bit more kindness. Smiling. That's a good thing. And then another way, and this is my last idea. I don't even know how long I've been going on here, folks. Probably about time for me to end this resilience reset. Another way to be kind is, this may seem interesting, I don't know, is to pick up on something that somebody did a long time ago. So if you're in a relationship with someone and they made you laugh, or there was like a joke that happened a week ago, or you remembered this thing about them, say it, right? Like pull it in, because I think what it does is it says, wait, you were listening. Wait, you were truly engaged when we did that. And it comes in, it feels really good. And I know that to be true because somebody did it for me today. And I was like, oh, I kind of like that. And let me tell you what it is. He said, and those of you who know what I'm talking about here, but when else would I have a real live opportunity to release 2 birds and throw a scone at you? And of course, I laughed hysterically because I just think it's the funniest thing. And for those of you who don't know what I'm laughing about, you'll know it. I'll encourage you to go back and look at another live where we talked about political correctness and how you're not allowed to say, or not allowed, you're not supposed to, according to the politically correct police, to say, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Instead, we're supposed to offer a feed 2 birds with 1 scone. Anyway, I just think it's hilarious. So that was fun, but like that was clever. And that was a little bit of kindness to make somebody else smile. And so when he did that, I thought, oh, you know what? That was really, I kind of like that. That's a good idea. I'm going to add it into my little kindness dialogue. So there we go. Kindness is such a part about resilience. So, and how it feeds into resilience, which of course, when we're resilient to the daily stressors, then we can be more objective, we can be more productive, we can be happier, we can have better relationships. I mean, there's just so many benefits to being resilient on a daily basis. And thank you. Thank you for participating in our highly politically correct, less politically correct. We need those Angry Birds things. Remember that game? That was so fun. Okay, where was I? Yeah, people making me laugh about those scones. Those birds, they're fed well. But here's why resilience and kindness is so important. Twofold. Number one, it can diffuse situations that otherwise would escalate. And when they escalate, then they become a problem that we need to solve or deal with. I'm all for, let's not even make it a problem. Let's just try to nip it in the bud. Am I allowed to still say that? Is that still politically correct? Nip it in the bud? I think that's about plants. So no, can't pee on the plants, but we can nip them. All right. And then what are we going to do next? That is really, sorry, my phone is lighting up here. I'll get rid of that. So kindness, get out there. Be kind. And if somebody isn't being kind, you can shield yourself from their lack of kindness by being kind. And that's a beautiful place to be. So until next time, stress less, do more, be happier. And I can't wait to see you in our next live.